Welcome everyone to another quick video about the failed state, unfortunately, of Linux Audio. Yes, the running gag, Linux desktop is nice, but do you have audio? The Steam Deck remains one of the prime examples how not to do things. I would hold it on the camera, but I'm live streaming from it, right? And I made a previous video that initially audio was not fully working on the Steam Deck on Linux. Yes, of course on SteamOS, but SteamOS is the Linux distribution, right? And of course they YOLO'd and configured stuff to work. But basically the Steam Deck is a prime example how not to do hardware and software. Let me explain today. Although I made a previous video maybe in March or so, 6 months or so ago, that hey, finally you could have some audio, and I used the Steam Deck. Well, I'm live streaming obviously, but I'm live streaming from an HDMI capture dongle, right? And since audio was somewhat working, I enjoyed audio on the headphone, right? So headphone was working for me since the last video, but what never worked so far, except on SteamOS, were on Linux proper ALSA, Advanced Linux Sound Architecture with Pulse Audio Pipewire, the freaking speakers, right? And on the previous video, we already explained, so what are the issues? The issue is that this hardware is super freaking complex, or stupidly complex. And what was previously published here also, except of course here needs a driver, right? It's some AMD advanced driver and stuff. So of course the driver had to be written, which thankfully AMD and Valve also have done. And then also the hardware is extremely stupid, right? I've never seen, I grew up with a PC speaker, a speaker on a timer, then eventually a sound blaster, right? And that stuff actually just freaking worked, right? And what this hardware does differently is, what I've never seen in my life, and what you needed these configuration files for, is they connected the speaker. Normally you would have a stereo deck, a digital to audio codec, a converter, and they somehow, I have no idea how they came to this design decision. They used mono codecs, right? So instead of one stereo codec, like 99.9% of the devices out there have, except maybe the first CD player or so, 1994 or whatever, probably used two mono decks maybe. So they have two mono decks, right? That complicates all the sound infrastructure, right? Because that is also what you need these configuration files for. So you have the kernels exposing two mono decks. Well, it's exposing, and it's getting even more complex, right? It's actually exposing three, one stereo and two mono. The stereo is for the headphone, right? For some reason they also have a additional stereo headphone deck and then two mono speaker decks. I have no idea how they could come to this design decision, right? Normally you would also just, depending on what you want to support, if you only need headphone, especially on a game console, you could have gotten away with one. Like traditionally you had one digital to analog codec and then routed it to either the headphone or even both, right? The speakers and headphone, they're like with a mixer and then mix it. Sure, it is nice to have different audio on the headphones and on the speakers, but on a game console, okay. And this is adding to all the complexity and why it's not working, right? To this day, it's not fully working, at least for me. Sure, on SteamOS, yes, but we're talking desktop Linux proper, right? And so the initial configuration files, besides the driver, were to combine like this UCM, this ACP5, this is AMD or so, whatever, codec and processor, and 5X. So this user mode configuration files are to combine these two freaking mono decks to a stereo deck, right? This should have worked, the story should have ended here, right? But no, unfortunately it continues. So today I find it's like I freaking want sometimes to listen to audio, right? It's not an unreasonable expectation like 1 year later. I mean, ideally on launch day, but 1 year later, wouldn't it be nice to actually have speaker working, like to sometimes listen to some streaming audio, or just some YouTube video, you know, just some entertainment, just some music running while you code. So I finally looked further into it, and I didn't get it working without actually diffing. So what did I resort to? I booted SteamOS, booted in desktop mode, and dumped here with amixer or so the bloody controls, because there is where this story continues, right? Who in their right mind is thinking, I'm an audio expert, right? I grew up with audio, I always did audio. I play guitar and a little bit piano stuff. I wrote GSMP, General Sound Manipulation Program, which I haven't done because cannot do everything. 20 years ago, a Delta 1010 that I still have in the office, MOU Delta 1010 PCI card, was freaking working on Linux, ALSA. We produced CDs with it, right? 20 freaking years ago. And sure, many mixer controls. These are the freaking mixer controls for this card. And like, I didn't even I sit here month after month, no audio, right? I of course, I change this and that. There is stuff like, here is right aux, noise gate, channel 1, entry delay, threshold. Like, who in their freaking mind would think that exposing so many controls, sure, controls are nice, but then initialize them to useful values and maybe hide them behind some usually not seen expert option, advanced. I mean, I'm all for options and configuration, but this is even too much for me. And I freaking built previous video a high-end 18-bit sound card with ISAR, DSP, Motorola 56K and stuff 20 years ago, and I regularly solder stuff and run so on. These are too many mixer controls, even for me, and I'm an expert and a kernel programmer. Because also ADC deck, DRC attack time, 64 whatever, TS, decay time, expansion, and it's like I freaking diffed the bloody configuration between SteamOS and stuff to find here which even, because the problem is, I mean, first of all, I also don't want to destroy something, right? Think MacBook and then your speakers fly out with a plastic chassis there. Yeah, it turns out whatever, it's I don't even, these are so many controls are usually, and there are twice, right? Remember, these are 2 mono codecs, so all of those bloody controls are 2 times there, right? Once for the left channel, once for the right channel. And it's yeah, ADC phase, invert, and decimation rate, and release time, and yeah, DMIC, because there's probably some digital microphone, DRC, here's some headset microphone off, internal mic, whatever. Also here's a IMON or VPMON and 0 and not 0 and off and not off gain. It's yeah, neither do I want to destroy this stuff, nor do I want to, it's toggle some mixer and fry your bloody deck and amplifier, right? So yeah, I found here whatever. Also, here's some freaking firmware setting, right? So some of those, you see, there are so many freaking controls. It's where was it? And here's somewhere also DRC NI4, limiter slope, it's noise gate. It's yeah, which of those stuff do I need to change to have audio coming out of the speakers, right? Here's also firmware. I believe you probably need to have the firmware on calibrated, which I obviously only discovered today, diffing this with a Steam Deck OS. I was yeah, left, yeah, so also this is a completely crazy control. So this by the way probably was muted. Left analog PCM, yes, I could have toggled this. Probably I even played with this previously also. This is also, why is this changing left analog? Oh no, this is selected. So completely crazy, right? This is mute or dB gain 0.01. How is this, also, I mean, this is also strange, right? I mean, how is this between mute 0.01 and 0.02, which is extremely little gain, right? It's what the freaking heck is even going on with this config option? And the crazy stuff is, I press arrow up once, then it's 0.01, I press arrow up a second time, then it's 0.2, I press arrow down only once, and it's going down to mute. Anyway, so yeah, I probably had this on mute because I probably some month ago tried some of those. I didn't get it to output something and I stopped. You probably, yeah, I mean, obviously 0.02 is louder. It's anyway, there is some firmware setting here, right? Because there is some here. I believe, so I had this on protection, which might be nothing because who, even I'm not feeling lucky as a kernel developer to change left DSP firmware from protection to calibration or diagnostic or MISC. It's there are obviously there are more, right? There's also MBC VSS, Master Hi-Fi, TX speaker, RX, ANC voice control ACE. So the Steam OS has it on calibration, which might be some calibration curve, maybe, which might be hard-coded in this UMC file settings, but I'm not making this shit up, right? Why do I sit here and make this? I wish I could sit here and say, everything is so easy, right? Launch day, just install desktop Linux and everything just freaking works. No, but we are here 1 year later after kernel developer and YouTuber made already one video of like, hey, finally it's working a little bit. Like 6 months later, hey, finally I got audio out of my speakers coming out, right? So yeah, absolutely crazy. And without diffing this with the Steam Deck stuff, which by the way, this is not, which did I save it? This is not initial because I've rerun this. Like here, this is what we're talking. It's like, yeah, we're diffing sound settings between SteamOS to finally get, I'm not making this shit up, right? But there is more. This is not all, and I'm not over. So today is the day I, the first time on a regular desktop Linux, heard audio out of the speakers, but I can't use it yet. Because this shit is even more broken. Because turns out somehow Pulse Audio, and yes, I should use a wire, no, not WireGuard, Pulse Audio, what was the other? So many, it's like 2020, the year is 2023, we have 2 dozens of audio demons. Pipewire probably. Of course, I should probably use Pipewire. I tried already. Kernel developer, distribution maintainer, 2 times already tried to migrate to Pipewire. Couldn't get this shit to work either. I'm making crosses in the calendar that bloody Pulse Audio still somewhat usually, and also to YouTube live stream, works. Because Pulse Audio, and maybe Pipewire, I didn't try it yet. I didn't get Pipewire to work, but Pulse Audio doesn't want to use this. It just doesn't enumerate the thing as things. So somehow, so next I would need to debug Pulse Audio or maybe migrate to Pipewire and probably then debug Pipewire. Because the thing is, because there are 2 playback streams here in Proc A Sound, and yes, I have here a couple of sound cards. One of course is HDMI, one is my capture dongle, and the other is like, yeah, obviously you have so many audio things, right? And here you see the 2 things. So there is this wire here. So that is that one, right? ACP5X, and here are 2 playback channels, which Grabstar P in maybe info or so. Or, okay, whatever. And so these are all the codecs. Oh, come on. All right, obviously with dot. So I'm not fantasizing this stuff together, right? There is this CS35L41 and this other now 8821 Hi-Fi. The first are the 2 mono, now 8821. Wait, no, this is, no, wrong. So this is the headphone amplifier, and this CS35L41 are the multi-codec mono oral speaker drivers. And the problem is, because this is in one card or whatever, somehow Pulse Audio decides that it's not worth utilizing that, right? And so how did I, because that is the other thing, right? So for months, every other, like probably 8 times, right? So probably every 2 or 3 weeks I was sitting, it's like, would really be nice to have audio coming out of the speakers, right? And so previously, all the 8 times since March or so, when I was sitting here, some radio would be nice, right? Or so. I was actually not testing with the right, so I was even changing all the mixer values for nothing because I didn't realize that the bloody Pulse Audio was always only outputting to the bloody headphone codec and not to the speaker codec, right? It's not in there. It's even more bizarre, right? If I boot and do nothing, then Pulse Audio will not even use any device at all because I don't have a headphone plugged in, right? Then Pulse Audio is by default outputting to some dummy plug-in that goes to dev null, right? Amazing achievement. Only when I plug in the headphone, then with headphone pin detection, Pulse Audio finally figures, hey, there is a active thing that we could use, and then uses the now 8821 Hi-Fi headphone codec. So yeah, thanks for that. A year later, I'm still not done debugging the failed audio stack that, ironically, I said it before, right? The first 20 years of Linux, I never had problems, right? The audio problems are only the last 5 years with everyone reinventing their next best audio server and daemon after Jack and ESD. Yes, sure, ESD sucked and Art sucked. Jack was actually quite professional, but obviously you can't run a professional multi-track recording studio daemon for your desktop audio. You need to invent Pulse Audio, and then because that obviously sucked, we needed Pipewire. So how did I play your audio? I played manually, and even that has glitches, right? So resorting back to the command line, and that is also, you need skills, the whole full stack from kernel driver to everything in the whole pipeline. Basically, the whole pipeline was broken, right? Initially, the kernel driver wasn't ready, then the user's post-export stuff wasn't ready, then we had some configuration files, they're not fully working, then the mixer has a gazillion options that even audio experts can't figure out how to turn and tune, and then at the end, you even need to debug the audio server and applications to actually switch and enumerate the bloody second codec, right? So the way this works, and maybe it works for some other distributions, maybe it works for Arch or Gentoo, maybe they have more custom patches or more custom patches in Pipewire working or whatever. Pipewire is also super strange. I'm not even sure, because Pipewire's Pulse Audio compatibility, I'm wondering, you can build Pipewire with Pulse Audio compatibility, but then you need Pulse Audio, really strange stuff. Like, I wouldn't want two audio daemons in my system, no, for Pulse Audio compatibility. So if I go here and I play this, and so even that didn't work right, because I thought this is not working right, because each time I use this SOX play, this is also abandoned. Maybe I should take this over, actually a relatively cool project. This is like, all the cool command line projects like SOX, the Swiss Army knife, the reference with Swiss Army command line tool things, of course abandoned, probably because nobody makes money with open source, or I don't know what. I still use it to this today. It's like, how can this be abandoned, right? With 2014 Linux distributions and hundreds of thousands of open source developers, how can the reference command line, audio command line, Swiss Army knife thing be abandoned? But whatever. So this is how you switch here. So by default, it's using whatever default. So to use, I have here 3 sound cards, right? What was it even? Yeah, HDMI, which is not connected, capture dongle, HDMI capture dongle, and then the built-in stuff, which has, so that built-in stuff is usually 2 and not 0, because of course it is. Yes, random PCIe enumeration and timing and asynchronous timing and enumeration stuff. Nonetheless, probably I would, I understand everything is difficult, it is what it is, but it would also be cool if the built-in primary audio thing would always be 0. Apparently very difficult in a single address space monolithic Linux kernel. Yes, I understand random enumeration and whatnot, and that PCI device comes first, so that is first, and then somehow the USB thing is detected first for reasons, and last but not least, eventually this built-in thing enumerates as 2. Totally yes, rocket science, it is amazing, achievement unlocked, but anyway. Of course it doesn't matter in the goal. Why do the Linux developers not tackle that? Because in the end it doesn't matter, because Pulse Audio Pipewire will anyway use the database and reference it by names to the user and so on. So it doesn't matter if every other boot it's 2, 1, 3, 0 and stuff. Yes, I get it. Nonetheless, it's a little bit annoying, right? And so hardware, so this is a ALSA, internal ALSA name. So HW comes from the ALSA, libALSA, user space infrastructure. So 2 is the sound count index, which is 2 in this case, and then comma 1 is a sub-device, right? So 1 probably, this is a headphone, it even plays, I'm surprised, usually Pulse Audio should claim this. And so naturally, so nothing starts, right? Naturally, even that didn't just work, probably because of the multi-codec, because it's 2 mono codecs, right? Who knows what's going on there in the pipeline. I mean, naturally, if this stuff, it's not playing something, right? Play 1 ALSA can't encode 0-bit unknown or not applicable. It's like, dude, what the heck is going on? Only by pure chance and accidents I realized, if I let it run a little bit longer, because how did I realize? Because I did this like 5 times, like, yeah, YOLO, whatever, like, basically because I had to still figure out how to select this bloody sub-device, right? I tried this, name this, and it didn't work. And naturally, like, if it doesn't work, I Control-C and stuff. Like, only once, like after the 5th or 8th time or whatever, I Control-Z this to stop it and checked the proc file, because in this proc files you see which the PCM state. Of course I know this because I programmed ALSA 20 years ago, right? So if people are wondering why do I even know this stuff, this is if you program stuff, then you know this stuff. If you debug your own program, right? So if we go here, PCM 1P, and then the sub device here, can we also maybe source my profile? Yeah, the sub, why did it not complete, whatever. So you see the playback stuff. So basically I Control-Z this to check which It's like 2023, you need to poke around in /proc to figure out what in the end your audio daemons and user space applications actually utilize when you specify something. So, and only then when I resumed it, the 8th time, and then I resumed it, like suddenly it started to play.
Okay, some of you know these amazing guys, of course.
I can't make this shit up. Oh, no, it works the first time. I have no idea what's going on there. So yeah, in the end, there is even one other strange bug. Maybe it is, I mean, we could theoretically try if it is FLAC is decode, right? So that is conflict girl here. Of course, only the highest quality flex here for this monaural speaker to test wave, I believe. Does this work? No, somehow, or is it just so fast? Do we have, no, it's not so fast. The problem is I don't want that it deletes. I mean, I have it still on the server because obviously I have my, okay, this works apparently. I hope it didn't delete this. Okay, it didn't test wave also somehow as a core dump because of course there is a, if you play stuff, of course it core dumps. It wouldn't be 2023 if you stuff on arrow core dumps, right? Yesterday's video on my channel. So A play, what was the device, right? HW2, 2,1 I believe. Wave. Invalid duration. Oh, okay, device is somewhere playing something else. Yeah, this also has some delay. Right, is not. So. Okay, somehow. Apparently there is some start issue. I mean, probably starting to codecs to mono or codec. I have no idea. I'm speculating now, right? Yeah, the first time when it's not running, it takes some seconds and it's confusing this placing too. Also, wait, play. So yeah, whatever. There would be more like a year later. I'm still not done with this just works. And Valve, sure, they have their SteamOS. It would really be. I mean, there are multiple takeaways here, right? One takeaway is the whole audio stuff on Linux is way out of control. There, of course. People are rightfully joking, desktop Linux is nice, but does audio work for you? Right? I'm not making this up. This is basically the running gag on the internet in the Linux community. Ironically, it wasn't for me, right? For 20 years I was saying, I don't know what you're talking about. My regular audio stuff works. And then came OBS and HDMI capture dongle and Steam Deck, right? And I agree. Yes, it was only working for me because I was using only the standard built-in audio on my hardware ever. And now that I have more than this, yes, constantly it's not working. So the whole stack should have been simplified. I would also say the kernel should probably take care of this monaural audio decks here. Basically, it's showing that each stage, I would say each layer, each stage of this stack is somehow not perfect. Everything is over 20 years quickly or slowly YOLO together to just work. And if you have something non-standard, it doesn't. If you look too close or want something specific, then good luck. It certainly doesn't help that we rewrite the audio server stuff every 5 years. If ESD, ARTS, I'm not making this stuff up, right? KDE invention, ARTS, probably Red Hat and related, whatever, Enlightenment, Pixel, Rasterman, or whoever wrote ESD for maybe Enlightenment. Was it ESD for Enlightenment Sound Demon? From the top of my head, right? Plus all the other stuff. So there was other stuff. Of course, there was other stuff that nobody remembers or wants to remember before Pulse Audio and Pipewire. Certainly Jack for high-end audio. And there are also, again, this mixer stuff is too complex. I understand it. The Linux stuff is to come out with defaults, but honestly, coming up with defaults is not cutting it, right? Even with this UMC user space, the modular configuration files or whatever, it's not cutting it to leave the user with like, yeah, good luck changing your mixer in ways that audio comes out of the speaker. And last but not least, I would not have built this hardware like this, right? I would not I would not have created this advanced audio stuff here on the AMD side like this. There were standards, audio, HD audio, the Intel AC97. Yes, use cases, corner cases and stuff, but we're not using all this stuff, right? We're not using DSPs, sure, tuning the equalizer curve for your speakers and stuff, all nice things, but then it should somehow taken more care of the firmware, that the firmware loads whatever stuff into this DSP stuff for the OS to work. But otherwise it's like, I said it before, right? In the 90s, sound cards were more powerful. They had multiple, at least at the end of the 90s and 2000s, they had multiple playback channels. They had FM synthesizers, wavetables. All the stuff was reduced. Yes, we can now emulate this with high-end processors. But in the end, now they're putting like for two decades, we had super simplified Intel HD Audio AC97 that only had one playback, one capture channel, or maybe two for headphones and speakers. And now we have nonsense like two mono-aural decks, like it's the 80s or I don't know, 70s. Hardware should also not be designed like this, right? Valve is to blame here, or together with AMD, for this reference hardware to even create monstrosities like this, right? That, of course, it's not fun. If I would sit here with my microkernel, of course I would say, you know what, maybe I'm not even supporting this nonsense because this is just so crazy. Say, you know what, send me a patch or whatever the saying is there. Your way is a highway, or whatever that saying was. So it should not, from the hardware, codec and DSP, to actually implementing it with two, like, why not any other, like, I don't even know how they got to this idea to implement here two mono-aural decks. That certainly is adding at least some of to this. And then plus, like, why is Pulse Audio not using all things? Sure, if I debug this, there is probably a very good reason. So that is the, do they even write it here somewhere? Oh no, this is a bloody, yeah, this is a bloody dummy thing that until it is possible that Pulse Audio crashes when I plug in the headset, right? Let's see, I still have audio in OBS, because sometimes this shit also crashes, because of course it does. And yeah, now it changed. I believe that changed, right? Probably changed. I think it was dummy, and now we have hardware running. I'm pretty sure it changed, right? Would need to rewind. I'm pretty sure I read dummy, and now we have here Vive Jupiter -1. But again, this is only the headphone. I've not yet and I believe that's not the first time. It's probably the second time that I've seen Pulse Audio not using an audio device. I think I had this probably when I booted my external SSD and plugged it into some other system. I believe I had the same, that I didn't have audio and somehow it was not picking up the built-in audio for whatever, not in database reasons. And yes, I already wiped the Pulse Audio files today here in, what was it, Pulse probably. Like, yeah, I wiped this configuration state today, so this hash stuff here was recreated just today, because obviously, yes, I tried. Have you tried to delete it and run it again? Yes, I did. I get nothing except the dummy device until I plug in a headphone, which, sure, it is reasonable not have an audio. Actually, I would say it's reasonable to have the speakers until you plug a headphone in, but I mean, the speakers are clearly not working. Maybe because it's a second sub-device there. I would need to debug this next. Probably I'm not debugging that because I simply, like, 1 year later, you had me at, there is a patch, there is more patch, it's still not working, and it's like, it's simply not worth it. I basically shout this out of, this is all the stuff you can have, right? I hope you learned something. If you are in hardware and software design, please don't design systems, hardware or software like this, because clearly there are issues. And leave in the comments below what's your experience. Maybe I make a questionnaire, my beloved polls here on this channel, community polls. Does desktop audio work for you? Comment below. What is the most exotic stuff that you could not get to work or could get to work? Do you find this is reasonable or sheer utter overcomplicated nonsense? I will probably, rather than obviously debugging Pulse Audio, I will probably a third time look into what does it take to migrate to Pipewire. But that's also the thing, right? People on news shouting out like, hey, Pipewire, the best innovation since sliced bread, and all those friends and family applauding. Yeah, whoops, something went wrong on our end. Yeah, cool. That's good. You can't make this shit up. I rest my case. It's you had me at the bloody website doesn't even freaking, where is the freaking, also Google also ever only constant is change and regressions, where's the bloody cache button? Cache, where is freaking cache? Like once upon a time they had here use cache, but now they either they don't do it anymore or they hide it so good that move save more about, no, I want the freaking cached version of the bloody site, must be somewhere cached. Yeah, usability fail when about this results. All I wanted was a bloody cached version. Anyway, you get the idea. Maybe GitHub works. It's what should I say? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, learned something, and get something. Maybe you get ways like stupid Linux distribution maintainer also doesn't get audio to just work, at least on the Steam Deck. That's it for this video. Have a good day or night. Maybe enjoy your audio while it lasts, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you soon for all the next videos and live streams to come. Maybe a video update on the more main channel, like, hey, I got Pulse Audio or Pipewire to use the speaker. But hey, I can just continue to use the headset. The reason, of course, probably the headset sounds better, or the headphones. The reason, of course, in this freaking summer heat, headphones are relatively warm. And that is why the last weeks, actually, I was thinking, like, it's so freaking hot, would be really nice not to have headphones. Cheers.